question number 1. Everyone describes a digital divide a little bit differently, so what is your definition, or how would you describe it?
The digital divide is a phenomenon that has developed as a result of the evolution of new media technologies.
Okay.
And what that does is provides folks who have access to devices and internet service, and leaves others on the other side without it. It is appropriately called the divide because, in fact, folks who tend to have new media technologies, the devices, the internet access, they also tend to be folks who have better socioeconomic situations, including food sources, power sources, housing, that sort of thing, so that it lines up on poverty lines, and also divides along lines of race and ethnicity. So the digital divide is a really complicated situation, because the other way it's sliced is that because we can't suppose that because people have devices and access that they have the knowledge in terms of using these tools. So that, for me, digital literacy then, which attempts to bridge the digital divide, is geared toward educating folks to be able to use new media technologies to advance their lives and that of their communities.
Okay. That had a lot of good stuff. So some of these other questions kind of touch on what you just answered, so you can just give a little summary of what you just said, or whatever you want to do.
Sure.
So what do you think are some of the causes of the digital divide? So you just talked about socioeconomic and all the advances.
There are a number of causes. One cause is the lack of information about what new media technologies can do for you. So you have, so for example, one slice of the divide puts privileges younger people over, let's say, seniors, because seniors didn't grow up in a time where this was a thing, and so they've been a little uncertain about it, uncertain about putting their information out there, uncertain about this nameless, faceless thing that they can't quite hold on to. And so there's that kind of misinformation, misunderstanding about how this can work. So that's one reason. The second reason, absolutely, it has to do with socioeconomic situations. So folks who are on the lower end of the poverty spectrum, they are less likely to select things such as paying for internet access or purchasing a computer or a smartphone, for that matter, over basic needs: food, shelter, clothing, getting their children to school, that sort of thing. So that's another way that it gets sliced up. Another another reason that the digital divide happens has to do with corporate entities, because the ways in which corporations provide support for communities, even in terms of where housing is built up and how those houses are built, with what kinds of infrastructure, where banks are put, or where supermarkets are put, and those kinds of the city planning. That also creates a digital divide, because it privileges some parts of the community, people who can afford certain parts to live in, and then others not. And so until corporate entities who are supporting digital access and digital literacy apply their resources evenly throughout cities and towns, you will continue to have a divide.
Okay, that was interesting. I haven't heard that as much. What is your involvement in the digital divide in Charlotte?
So I became involved about 2 or 3 years ago, just as it was before Digital Charlotte in a way, but really came on stream with when Digital Charlotte became part of our umbrella of the main school. I felt for a long time that students need to have sustained service, and I felt when I developed the capstone many years ago that service should be a part of that. So it was. When we have the opportunity now to incorporate Digital Charlotte into our community, then I pledged to the folks who were here at that time that, okay, I will dedicate my capstone students into this work. So what it has meant for me is to work with the Digital Charlotte team to make sustainable contacts in the community. And I keep repeating the word sustainable because one of the things that I asked or perhaps demanded from the beginning was that we would not do a kind of what we would call hypodermic needle model, right? Just kind of go do something in a community and go. We have to, in order for the digital divide to be bridged, it has to be sustained work in the community
over years and years.
Sure. So the community then becomes its own advocate as well. So I have worked with creating relationships with community organizers, and point people at community centers and things to establish the needs for their particular community, to understand how we could best address those, and then how to craft the digital literacy basics classes within those communities so that we are meeting the needs of the people where they are, and then being able to suggest to folks where there are other digital literacy resources in Charlotte, because there are others, but the digital literacy basics was critical. It's critical. So that's been my rule.
Cool. Awesome. So then, this is also a super broad question. So how can we, meaning probably students specifically, because that's my audience for this interview, how can they help close the gap? So I know, obviously, as a volunteer myself.
Right. I think what I have seen over the years is that, yes, to be a volunteer in real ways, and when students are involved, at least through my capstone course, they tend to be teachers' assistants, and they assist the lead, and they kind of roam around and make sure that everybody who's in the class, that they are caught up and that sort of thing.
Right.
I think students can also be involved with helping communities, because especially for communication students, right? That we can help with communities in terms of recruiting folks for these classes, to really continue to get the word out, particularly for communities that might be less likely to come forward. So, for example, the Latin American community, that community is kind of spread out, and we have a very strong resource and connection and partnership with the Latin American Coalition. However, there are also segments of the community of that same Latin American community who might even know that that's a resource for them. So they may not be going for that resource, so they're not finding our resource. But I think just really continuing to brainstorm and using all that great knowledge that we get about using social media and advertising and promotions and that sort of thing, to channel those skills into getting people out there and getting people to know that there are resources available in Charlotte, not just through the Digital Charlotte, but other entities. The other thing I think students can do, and I've had probably about 3 or 4 so far, and I hope it continues to grow, students who graduate and remain in the Charlotte area, and many folks do, is to come back and become lead facilitators. And so that there's a sense of continuity for them, because what I have found over the years is that when students go to these communities and they assist with the digital literacy classes, they end up discovering other needs of the community, other things that, oh, well, maybe there's this, there's that, we can do this, we can do that. And so then the whole transformation of the community then can happen, because you have different eyes looking at what's happening on the ground. And so those are the 3 ways I think that students can continue to support that. And a student does not have to be a night student to be part of our initiatives. I have often, and I've even had the conversation with foreign languages, for example, and particularly with the Spanish-speaking communities, that we are always looking for folks. And so I think it would be a great opportunity for students who are learning Spanish or are already proficient or are Spanish majors or minors to be our point people in at Latin American Coalition and others. There are some other agencies that are also geared towards the Spanish-speaking community. That's another way to really kind of spread our tentacles throughout the Queen's community. So it's not just a night school thing, because if we want to transform Charlotte and move beyond, it can't be within the small confines of the night school.
Yeah. Okay. This is my last question.
Okay.
So lastly, is there anything else that you would want to share with the Queen's community about the digital divide? I think some people think it's just people don't have devices, and you've already touched on it. It's not just that. It's like all of the different parts of the stool, right?
Right. Yes.
So is there anything else that you would like, a misconception or something that you'd like to set straight?
Well, what I can say is that the digital divide is real, and it's manifest in real ways. And as you know, but many people may not, most jobs, more than 75% of jobs today, particularly, at all levels, are posted, advertised, and expected to be applied for online. That, if that was the only thing, that would already be major. But when you add that to that more than 75% of high school and lower teachers are requiring assignments that demand digital access. When you see that when you go to the doctor, records are now being online for you to be able to access, or make an appointment, change an appointment, remember what the doctor said, check your medicine, that sort of thing. Those are some critical pieces that people are not always hip to, even if they have a device and can get on Facebook or Instagram. And that's what's deeply concerning. And I can go on, right? There's banking, there's just general information about the community. You have all of these digital online communities now, like Nextdoor and Neighborhood Watch and those kinds of things. There are so many resources that can inform people's lives and really provide assistance and support, or at least a foundation on which a person can now build and find out more information. Unemployment, it's all online, what to apply for, all of these things. That if we only have the check mark that yes, you've got a device and yes, you've got internet access, and let that be enough, then we will continue to allow people to miss opportunities. So the digital literacy is so much more. Again, it is to be able to think about how this resource can change your life because of the information that you now have access to. So it is real. It is real when you sit with somebody who's not digitally literate, and they have just come out of jail and they need to find their resources and so about their time and apply for a job and be conversant in what they can do. It becomes really difficult to see how easily they get stuck. And so that's what we're trying to change in fundamental ways. So.
Great, thank you. That was awesome.
You're welcome.